After the video series I did on Skulltrail, in my opinion the ultimate Intel platform created for enthusiasts, I really wanted to do a follow-up on it, and there's only one board that can be considered the spiritual successor of Skulltrail, the Evga classified SR-2. Now I've been looking for one of these boards for a long time, and while they are not that uncommon on eBay, finding one for both a reasonable price and in a complete state with box and accessories is really quite difficult. However, after a long time searching I've finally been able to source one. And here it is, complete with box and accessories. And while unboxings are a bit of a yesteryear's thing, I do want to start this video with just that. Let's start with the outside of the box. It's not in pristine condition anymore, with a few tears here and there, but then again this is quite a fragile cardboard sleeve. You need to slide over the box itself in quite a cumbersome way. Starting on the front, there is this nice SR-2 logo. I've always really liked the design of this. Further down there's some info regarding the fact that this board is meant for Xeon 5500 and 5600 series CPUs. More on that soon. And on the right side there is some silly branding, including the fact that this board does indeed support NVIDIA PhysX, as if anyone bought this board just for that. On top there's simply the name again and the mention of supporting PCI Express 2.0, and on the bottom there's only some warranty information in various languages. However, on the back side of the box it's a little more interesting, starting with a nice picture of the board itself. Moving up, there is a list of some of the key features of the board, such as 12 DIMM slots, support for 2, 3 and 4-way SLI and Crossfire, SATA 3 6GB a second, dual gigabit Ethernet, all solid capacitors and anodized black CPU sockets with apparently 3 times the amount of gold. Moving on the right, there is a list of what is included in the box, which we'll get into with the unboxing, and further warranty information. Removing the cardboard sleeve leaves us with just a plain black box. Opening it up first reveals another white cardboard box which opens from both sides and contains the SR-2's accessories. First there is the Evga user manual containing all the info you need about setting up the board. Then there is the driver and utilities CD. Nice to see that was still there. The I/O shield, which has labels for all the connections printed on it and actually has some padding on the back side, making it feel a bit more premium. Interestingly, Evga also still included an IDE hard drive cable. Not sure too many SR-2 owners would have still used IDE hard drives, but hey. Then there are some regular Molex to SATA adapters. Also included are these plastic standoff, still sealed in their Evga packaging. Also still included is this 4x USB 2.0 expansion slot for the back of your case. Then there are 6 SATA 2 cables. Moving onto the still sealed Evga 4-way Sli Bridge. Don't see too many of these around these days. And then the Evga 3-way SLI bridge. Originally a 2-way SLI bridge was also included, but that is the only part that is missing here. And lastly there is what Evga calls the visual installation guide. It offers information about how various components need to be installed and offers information on all the various components of the board itself. It's a really neat piece. With the accessories out of the way, it's time to lift up the rest of the packaging, revealing the classified Super Record 2. Do note that it would usually be inside an anti-static bag. Having gotten the board out of the box, I want to take a closer look at some parts in detail. Firstly, the 7 red PCI Express slots, which in combination with the NVIDIA Enforce chipsets, support 2, 3 and 4-way GPU configurations. However, in order to actually use all of these PCI Express slots, you need to connect this 6-pin power connector to the board. Quite unusual. Also a neat touch is that the PCIe clips are spring mounted instead of the usual plastic tabs. Next is the Chipset Cooler for the Enforce 200 chips and the Intel 5520 and ICH10R chipsets. At first I thought there was a bit of damage on the shroud, but to my surprise it actually turned out that it was only a scratch on the protective plastic from the factory that was actually still in place after all these years. Next to that are the SATA ports, the two red ones being the ones that support SATA 3 6GB a second, and lower down there is also a BIOS select switch. Up top there are the 12 DDR3 DIMM slots supporting both ECC and non-ECC RAM, up to 48GB triple channel, although some users have gotten 96GB to work as well. On both sides are the CPU sockets for up to two 6-core Xeon CPUs, and for providing power to them are two 8-pin and two 6-pin power connectors, so 4 in total, though as you can read on the little labels on the 6-pin connectors, they are only really needed for extreme overclocking. Turning the attention to the anodized black CPU sockets with, and I quote, 3 times the amount of gold content. Now I will admit they do look very nice. For the CPUs I have two 6-core 12-thread Xeon X5675s. And here's the main difference between Skulltrail and the SR-2. For Skulltrail, Intel made the QX9775, a fully unlocked LGA 771 chip. However, that was the only time Intel did this, and for the SR-2 we can only use locked Xeon chips. Now they can still be overclocked by raising the QPI frequency, although this will cause issues you will need to work around, as I will discuss in the overclocking video. What is important for now though is that the 3.07 GHz 5675, while not being the highest clock chip, that's the 3.47 X5690, it is very suitable for overclocking on air, as it only has a 95 watt TDP compared to the 130 of the 5690. Time to get it put together. For cooling I'm going to use these two large Saito-Mugen coolers. These should have enough cooling capacity to crank up the voltage later. Onto the RAM, and in order to get the full triple channel working we're going to need 6 DIMMs. Here I've gotten some quite exquisite DDR3. Firstly some 4 tasty red DIMMs of 4GB Guile Evo Veloce at DDR3 2400, CAS latency 11 13 30 30. And alongside them I also have two 4GB Patriot Viper DDR3 2400 sticks at an even lower CL 10 12 12 30. And while this memory is more than enough what I need in terms of frequency, it will allow me to run some tighter timings in the future. Connecting it up I am using a Corsair RM1000X, and for storage my OCZ Vertex 3, which has Windows 10 Professional loaded up. Staying in touch with the general EVGA theme, I'll be using this EVGA GTX 570 2.5GB version for the first few tests. Let's power it on. The classified SR-2 actually has its own splash screen when it boots up, kinda nice to see. And here we are in Windows 10 with CPU-Z loaded up. As you can see, here are the two X5675 Xeons. And in stock configuration some of the cores will actually boost to around 3.3 GHz using Intel Turbo Boost. Memory is running at the stock 1333 MHz, the maximum supported memory speed at stock. At idle in Windows the entire system is pulling around 170 watts in total. Let's get to some benchmarks. In Cinebench R15, the best score I got was 1493 points, with a single thread score of 101. This is all using stock speeds. Here are some numbers I've pulled from several review sites to put that into comparison. At stock, the 12-core 24-threaded Duo is just ahead of the Coffee Lake 8700K and Ryzen 5 2600X. A bit further down you can also see the single 6-core i7 990 Extreme, which in turn is just ahead of my dual overclocked Skulltrail. The 5675s however can't match the 8-core 16-threaded Ryzen 7 2700X and Core i9 9900K, at least for now without overclocking. And way in the distance we can see the other 12-core 24-thread Threadripper 2920X. This goes to show how far CPUs have come since 2011. For those interested in Cinebench R20, we're looking at around 3163 points. Total power draw under load increases to around 315 watt for the entire system. However, temperatures remain very low, only around the mid-40s. And finally, for some gaming. Here I've taken out the GTX 570 and installed an ASUS Matrix Platinum HD 7970. Because we're going to be running some Battlefield 5 64-player multiplayer on the Twisted Steel map. Running at 1080p with the low preset and future frame rendering enabled. You can see it's only utilizing the first thread and then thread 12 to 24. But even despite that and the relatively low clock speeds, this runs great, staying mostly between 70 and 90 FPS, with the GPU being slightly bottlenecked. More importantly, there is little variability in terms of frame times, making it a smooth experience. I actually also ran this on my Core i5 2500K overclocked to 4.5 GHz, and it does not run this game as well as the SR-2 does, with a lot more stutter in intense situations. So even at stock this makes for a better experience in Battlefield 5, something I was not expecting. If you have enjoyed this video, please let me know by pressing the like button, and if you have a comment, do leave one below or contact me on Twitter at DellChannel21. If you want to be kept up to date on future videos, do subscribe to my channel. Well, that was all for now, and I will leave you with a bit more Battlefield 5 footage, so feel free to continue watching.